Hi, it's Dustin with TechMD. So today we're going to be repairing an iPhone 7 charge port, first of a kind here in Utah. I actually pulled it off a brand new iPhone 7, and I thought it was quite challenging enough to put this on YouTube. So I'm going to make a detailed video here on how to do that. And so that way all of our technicians here in Utah and the rest of the world actually sees how I do it, my technique. So first we want to use a pentalobe screwdriver and go ahead and remove the screws here. So he does have a little crack here, but we're pretty sure it's not a screen. As you can tell, the screen is not cracked, just the tempered glass here. So we're going to go ahead and remove that tempered glass, and I'm just going to inspect the screen too real quick. So the screen looks good, and we're going to go ahead and put this on temporarily and see if we can get the unit to turn on. So first things first is we're going to take a thin tool and actually separate the screen from the frame here. Get in between the plastic frame. We're going to start slicing the iPhone open. Okay, and so we're just going to slice all around, and what we're doing is slicing adhesive. As you can see, my tool's not in there very far. I haven't made any videos for screen repair because there's a bunch of them out there that are really well done. Not so much for charge port, and so that's where I'm going to come in here, make a really good video for that. We got some more adhesive up here that we have to slice. Obviously you want to make sure the device is all the way turned off. So what I'm doing here is just twisting and actually popping that out. And then now we can open it up like a butt here, carefully and slowly. You don't want to open it up too much because you got some cables here that can actually rip. And that's your 3D touch and home button assembly there. So you need your tri-wing screwdriver. So I pulled mine out of a fixed tool set because that's all that was available when the iPhone 7 first came out. So I never bought an individual screwdriver. But pretty much this is the only thing I use, the iFix tool set. And we're just going to sit here and organize all of our screws because there's a lot of screws involved with this. Make sure you watch my technique on how I do things so that way you can learn how to do repairs quickly. I am going to go a little bit slower on this one just so that way you guys can get a good idea of what's going on here. Okay, so the battery already went ahead and unplugged because it's stuck to this metal plate. Okay, and then we're going to remove these two screws, they're 00. And then remove this plate carefully. And then we're going to take a plastic tool and actually pop out these connections. So any good old plastic tool will work. And then this one here. So now the screen's removed. We can set that aside here. Okay, and this is a charge port here. So we're going to find out if it is an actual charge port. Hopefully it'll let me plug this in. I'm just going to have to bend this up a little bit. So that way we can actually get connection here. Okay, good. We got connection. Let's move this out of the way. I'm going to have to get that battery back over this. Okay, now we're going to plug in our screen here and make sure it turns on with the new. I didn't see anything caught inside the charge port. That's the first thing I looked for. Make sure there's no like lint or anything like that. So always check that first before disassembling. Forgot to mention that. Then we're going to take our iPhone charger and looking for it here. There it is. So we're just going to take another iPhone. Make sure your charger is working. That way you're not wasting a bunch of time. So obviously my iPhone's working. Open that up and carefully plug this in. And we want to see something come up from the actual iPhone. Okay, so it is turning on now. And we're going to verify that it's charging. Okay, it's rebooting. Oh, that's because I didn't. See, I missed a step, guys. That's a good sign that the charger's working. So we're going to go ahead and plug in the battery. I forgot to do that. Doesn't want to sit down because that other thing is in the way. There we go. Make sure it's sitting all the way flush with the charger. Be careful with these cables, so you don't want to bend them too much. You'll find out quickly if you broke them. Then you'll have to replace the screen. The 3D touch panel's all included. Okay, so it is charging. So we're going to go ahead and pause the video and verify that the phone turns on, okay? Okay, so it's finally charged here. So the touch is still working, and the 3D touch still working as well. Oops, pressed the wrong button, but yeah. Anyways, you guys get the idea. Okay, we're going to go ahead and just turn it off and unplug it carefully. And we're going to go ahead and pull the battery. Okay, battery's unplugged. And now the screen. And another one. Okay, we set the screen aside. Okay, there's our new charge port setting aside here. Okay, so doing this repair requires very good organization. There's a lot of little pieces that fall off, so we want to pay attention to this piece here. It likes to fall off. This piece here comes off as well, and then this whole entire assembly comes off this cable here. Okay, and then there's another cable that runs to this here as well. So it's quite challenging, but if you stay organized, you'll have no problem. Try not to have your screwdriver slip. There is very tiny screws there, and I just made it slip. Fortunately, I did not bump any of those resistors, as I can see. You do that, you basically ruin the board. Well, you don't. I mean, if you do, guys, I have a guy who can fix that for you at 150 bucks. But don't do it. Just be smart. If you're not a trained professional, I would not recommend you doing this. You have to have experience doing it. Charge port is a lot more difficult on this particular device than any of the other iPhones. Other iPhones were really simple, but just taking off the screen alone is a challenge. So I'm going to go back to my screws here and try to organize them a little bit higher. I want to spread this out as much as possible. And they're technically over here. So I try to make a diagram of what I need. You can use a magnetic mat, but I don't like those. They drive me crazy. So I'm just going to go really far down here and make sure that my screws are spread out quite well. I don't want any confusion of where my screws are going to go, because there's, like I said, just tons of them. So right now we're removing the vibrator motor, but it can't actually remove. You can't even lift it out because it's plugged in at this connection right here. So this is directly below the vibrator motor, which does not want to come out. Let's help it out with my fingernail. There we go, the longer one. So we're going to put it right below the vibrator motor, right about here. I did spread out those screws quite a bit, so I'm going to move that over there. Now this piece just fell off where I was unscrewing, so that piece belongs there, but we got to remember which orientation it was. So I'm pretty sure it was this orientation. So we're going to verify it with another phone. Let's see here. Would you pause it for a second? So we can look at another iPhone here, and you see that it's this orientation, just how I have it. So this sits down below and the screw's above it, so that's why I put it below the screw, so that way we know which way it's actually going. Okay? Anyways, it's good to always have a second one to verify, so pause the video if you need to and go back to it as you need. You can't get this screw quite yet, but we'll get to it in a second. And so this one's a little bit above that one there. And then this one's all the way to the far right with these screws here. Now we're going to remove this piece here. And set it here. And actually, this goes below those screws, so we're going to put that below to keep it all organized. This, we're going to pop out. So it's pretty hard to get a plastic tool under there, so just be really careful if you use tweezers. Okay, and then this sits right here. 2 screws there and 1 screw there. Nice and organized, guys. We're going to lift this up and just slide this over for a little bit, for just a second, and go ahead and remove another screw here. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and remove these connections, or one of them. So we want this cord that's coming from down below here, and we're going to pop it out. Come on out. Apple technology. It's always fun. There we go. It was really snapped in there. So we're going to set this where it belongs, which is right there. And then see why I spread out the screws so much, so that way we can easily assemble this back together. Now, 2 trick hidden screws. You got one right here, and you got one right here. I'm doing this backwards, so I'm always going to put the screw right here. And now we're getting through some tape all over it, so you have to press pretty hard to get a good connection so you can unscrew it. Okay, now we're going to remove the SIM tray, and I'm going to show you my little technique that I did without having to remove the whole motherboard. Are you kidding me? No way am I removing the whole motherboard. Okay, well, I'm going to at least try. This is my first attempt at doing it without removing the motherboard, so take one. Okay, so we're gonna push this piece out of the way, and so it kind of looks like that. It's out, and that's your SIM card popper, so it has to be out of the way. Okay, and then we can actually should be able to start lifting the motherboards right here. That's actually where you can lift. So we can get good lifting action, as you can see right there, and be able to lift the board. What we're gonna do here is actually warm up everything. So you can take a heat gun right here, or you can put it on a hot plate like this. And so we're going to give it some attention in about 2 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and fast forward and pause the video here, and then we'll start removing it carefully without damaging anything on this charge port, just like I did it here. So maybe you bought an iPhone 7 and you're scabbing out the parts like I am, or whatever you're deciding to do, however you decide to do it, I'm going to show you how to do it without damaging anything. Go ahead. Okay, so it's nice and toasty here. So we're going to take some flat tweezers and get under a point where it will let us, which is right there. It's a little too hot. I need totally messing up the screws here. So careful what you're doing. You don't want to mess up your screws. So we need to remove this piece right here out. There we go. Okay, that piece is out now. And then this piece right here. Be careful of your hands. Okay, now that other piece has popped out. So this whole assembly should be loose by now. All I'm doing is putting my tool straight down and loosening it up. Okay, we're going to move battery out of the way carefully. This can break, so be careful. Slide that out, and then slide this one in. Same way you just slid the other one out. That way you don't have to remove the whole shebang out of there. Probably want to bend this up back. So remember, you can lift up the motherboard in the metal parts only. Try not to get it under anywhere else. I don't know what's under there yet. So I would not recommend risking it. Okay. Alignment is everything, obviously, but we'll go ahead and plug this in. Okay, and we're going to go ahead and screw down the board. So that way it doesn't move. And if we need to unscrew this, that means we didn't get the alignment just right, but it looks right. Just using a 00 to screw these in. It's kind of a pain because they're board screws. And slide this back down in there. Okay, now we have to get this all slid in carefully. So to angle it, let's do the charge port first and see what happens. Trying to get the charge port here sitting in just right. Try a different angle of attack here. Looks like it's sitting flush, so we're going to take one of our screws. That was this one on this corner here. And just screw it down. There we go. Now, what we're going to do here is just quickly plug it in and make sure it sits flush. Looks good. Great. Get one more screw here. Get that one lined up. Okay, we're gonna get these in and then those in. Make sure those are sitting flush against there. Okay, flush. I bent these out a little bit, not knowing that there was invisible screws there. So you gotta be a little careful here, getting these back in. Got a good view of that. So these screws already have some stuff on it here. So let's remove that. Okay, now we're going to aim for that hole that we just almost aligned. Oh, it kind of popped out. We'll see if we can get it adjusted. Yep, we did. Nice and tight. Make sure this is sitting flat again, like it was. Let's verify what it looked like. So this is popping up a little bit, as you can see. And so that's popping up a little bit. It's sitting off a little bit to the right a little bit, so let's adjust it. There we go. That's exactly how Apple had it. Okay, now let's do the outer one here. Removing the old tape so we can get a good connection when trying to screw it in here. Okay, and hopefully, like I said, you won't bend yours out like I bent mine. So that way you don't have to fight for this as much as I do. It requires multiple things here to make this happen. Yeah, if you didn't bend yours out, it should be sitting in there, but maybe the brand new ones might come maybe not with it, or bend out of shape a little bit in shipping, who knows. So that's how you do it if it is. Okay, now we can make sure our cable's just sitting flush. this a time-consuming project here. Okay, now for this little piece here. We want to get our tweezers out again. And somehow connect it right there. So let's lay this thing down.
Just reconnecting the old connection.
Mm-hmm. So connection is connected there. Okay, and we're gonna make sure this slides in into that speaker hole there. Very important. Get our screw here over the corner and screw at least one down here. Now, before we start screwing all these other screws here, we're going to make sure that these cables are going to actually sit down. So we're going to move this first. Plug that one in. Okay, that one's snapped in. Good. Pull this a little bit, give us a little bit more room. And snap this one. There we go. Both snapped in. Now we can screw in this screw and then that screw. If you keep organized, you won't lose anything. If you bump some of your screws, you might get a little confused. So try not to. Okay, this is next. We got to clip this into that foam without getting the foam inside the connection. That's your button. Well, at least it feels like a button when you press on your home button. Okay. The foam towards there, down and in, press in, and you gotta find the right screw, which should be this one here. There we go. That's why we spread out our screws, folks. As you can see, this procedure worked a lot better than removing the whole motherboard. Much quicker, efficient. You got other things to do. Okay, so just line it up like we originally seen, how it's designed. I'm sure that does some important things to the home button. So you want to make sure that is perfectly aligned, which if we can take our example here, it looks perfectly aligned. Put our long screw in here. Okay, now for the screen. So I like to get this cable in first. It makes screen install way easier because you can figure out how it fits in there by just grabbing it with your tweezers. Grab this. Alright, now for screen install. Feel out the plug, make sure it connects, sits down flush. Don't press too hard. You don't want to bend those cables or connections. If you ever do break those, we can fix them. Okay, so that is done. Now we're going to take our plate. This is a good testing moment if you want to test it, but for video's sake and save a little time here, we're not going to test it. Oh, you know what? These are tri-wings. Gotta get my tri-wing out. Be careful to only use a tri-wing 000, or it's also called tri-point too. If anyone can tell me the difference between tri-point and tri-wing, I'd love to know. I know Nintendo uses tri-wing, and supposedly the name for these are tri-point, but Y000 is pretty much what it is the bit you need. Just lift it up a little bit and slide it in that way. And we're going to clip it in carefully. Plug this in. And then there is a lot of things that we need to test once we get this thing turned on here. And we're going to go through all the testing procedures. This is to be a better technician and know what you need to do. So first off, we're going to see if you've left any residue. And with this repair at TWPD, we give an extra screen protector. Okay, looks like my camera just ran out of space, so I had to redo it here. One, two. Oh, okay, there we go. Oh, it's on 1%. Let's not let it die. There we go. Okay, so we're going to check to make sure that the phone rings.
Carefully to our menu options so we can connect you to the correct person.
So make sure that works.
Address or any kind of warranty issue.
Give me the phone.
Thank you for your patience. We know you're busy like us. We should be able to answer your call within 1 to...
Test. So basically I'm putting this phone up to my ear to make sure I can hear it. Test, test, test. Test, test, test. Test, test, test. Okay, and so we're just testing all the functions, make sure that we didn't mess up anything. Proximity sensor works. Okay. I feel it vibrate. I feel it vibrate. That's important too. The home button is working properly, and the Touch ID should be working it properly as well. So how you test the Touch ID? Enter the customer's code, or if the customer's with you, you can do it. And then make sure it reads your fingerprint. Okay, so we tested out the 2 microphones. We tested out the speaker, as you could hear myself in the speakerphone. We're testing out the charge cable here. We made sure the phone's still fully functioning, all the buttons still work, okay? And then that you make sure you don't leave any extra residue on the side of the phone. So, making sure I'm cleaning up here any excess residue. I don't know where that came from. And just make sure it's sitting in nice and flush. And that's pretty much it, folks. Oh yeah, I guess you could test the cameras too. Okay. Oops.
Oh.
I'll take a photo. Let's delete it. Okay, guys. Well, this has been Dustin, and thank you very much for watching. Have a good one.